Mr. Cipriano is the Chief Operating Officer of MTA New York City Transit. In his current role, he is a strategic advisor to the NYCT President for managing the day-to-day operations and shaping the long-term strategic vision of the largest transit agency in North America. He has 34 years of public transit experience and proven success as a leader delivering customer-focused, technological, and data-driven solutions to improve public transit operations. Previously, he served as interim president of NYCT and president MTA Bus Company, senior vice president, NYCT Department of Buses. His achievements include leading over 54,000 men and women of NYCT and MTA buses during the pandemic and executing the public safety initiatives to keep employees and customers safe while continuing to provide essential transit services. He has also led the vision to achieve a zero emissions bus fleet by 2040, and he's going to throw more light on his vision today. He implemented an aggressive purchase plan for 500 all-electric buses and major charging infrastructure upgrade projects as part of an unprecedented $1.1 billion funding for buses in the 2020-2024 MTA capital program. We are ready to hear from you, Mr. Cipriano, and over to you.
Thank you. And, thank you, everyone. And just want to say, thank you for having me here today. Regrets that I couldn't be there in person, but I do appreciate the opportunity to share what we're doing here in New York and some of our thoughts. So, today we want to talk a little bit about what we're doing and our path to a zero emissions fleet by 2040, which is our goal. But what I really want to focus on in this presentation, besides bringing everyone sort of up to speed on where we are, what we've been doing, and where we're headed, is how people are so critical to this transformation. It's not only about, delivering on the infrastructure, delivering on the buses, and all the power that goes alongside it, but it's really bringing the organization along to this transformation. And I really would like to sort of try to hit on that best I can. So I'm going to move ahead. So again, I'll introduce the MTA, who we are, a little bit about our commitment and where we've been, some phasing considerations, challenges, and then the last two slides is really about program management and people. And I really like to spend the bulk of the time today on those two topics. So who we are. So MTA's bus operations, we serve the 5 boroughs of New York. 5,900 buses. As you could see, you have the ridership, we have 28 bus depots, 329 routes. Currently, we operate a mix of diesel, CNG, and hybrid electric buses. We also operate 40-foot articulated and over-the-road coach buses. So, it's obviously the largest operation in North America. Complexity of delivering on this goal for sure, but again, we're fully committed and we're well on our way. So a little bit about where we've been. Back in 2018, we made our commitment to 100% zero emissions fleet. Again, we're looking at a zero emissions fleet, which would include battery electric buses, potentially hydrogen fuel cell, and any other zero emissions technology that evolves along the way. Well, how did we start? We started with a 10-bus pilot originally. We had no experience with battery electric buses, and before we went out and purchased this technology, we wanted to start with a pilot. What was also important to us back at that time was that, given that we had, such a large fleet, and we know that we had this public procurement process, we wanted to make sure that, any infrastructure we invested with could be utilized across different platforms. So we started with the pilot. Towards the end of 2019, we were fortunate enough that our current capital program had a $1.1 billion commitment, and that was for 500 battery electric or zero emission buses, plus associated infrastructure across up to 10 depots. Our first fleet of electric buses came in the end of 2019, 15 articulated and New Flyer articulated electric buses. They were purchased really for what was at that time the closure of the L line tube and the unprecedented bus and alternative service plan that we needed to provide. So it was key that because we were providing so many additional buses in these neighborhoods, that we had zero emission buses, not to add to the existing environmental impact. Then as we moved along, we awarded for 60 standard buses in December 2021. Those will start to come on the property in 23. And the charging infrastructure, we're working with a partner, the New York Power Authority. You know, one thing we had learned with the original 10 buses and then the 15 buses is that, you know, providing charging infrastructure was not our core business. So we partnered with New York Power Authority, who has a lot more expertise in that regards. And they're working hand in hand with us as we roll out additional infrastructure across our 28 depots. And then recently, we did produce
I think we've
500 buses that are programmed in our, oh, I'm sorry, can you?
Yes, now we can hear you, Mr. Cipriano. We lost you for a few seconds in between.
Okay, I'm sorry, I apologize. So again, as I mentioned, we have 500 zero-emission buses in our current capital plan. So we're starting to start that procurement in the coming year. We anticipate that would be awarded at the end of the year. At the same time, in parallel, we are looking at additional infrastructure build-outs at 11 of our bus depots, meaning by the end of the 2025 period, we should have between 15 and 16 bus depots that have some level of charging infrastructure in order to support what would be at the end of this 2026 timeframe, about 500 or would be 575 zero-emission buses, which we would anticipate would be the largest fleet operating in the United States by that time. A little bit about how we're going to go about phasing. Definitely equity and environmental justice is a key piece. You know, we had put together some environmental analyses that really are twofold. On one end, took into consideration social and demographics of various neighborhoods across the city. And on the other end, also took into consideration existing environmental indicators and environmental impacts. Definitely, a good mix across our 5 boroughs. We wanted to make sure that varied neighborhoods and the 5 boroughs enjoyed the benefits of our zero emissions buses as we deploy them. Power supply, no doubt. I mean, we have been working with in regards to, and that's our local power supplier, in regards to additional power that we would need at these locations. Just one key piece there, a lesson learned for us. As we work with our local power supplier, we're not only communicating to them how much we need in the near term, but how much we project we need in the long term. In other words, as we deploy fleets of anywhere from 15 to 60 buses over the next 4 years in a particular location, we know there's immediate power needs. But when we have a full complement of zero emission buses or battery electric buses at these depots, it could be up to 350 buses, and that's a whole order of magnitude of power that would be needed. So we are communicating that. Last 2 pieces are definitely construction feasibility. I mean, most of our depots are designed for, actually all of them were originally designed for diesel buses. So, we have ventilation where, we're going to need to put, say, pantographs. They're all in constrained urban environments. So most of our storage is vertical storage as opposed to, horizontal storage or outdoor storage. It's actually indoor. And then lastly, a schedule feasibility. When we took an initial look at our existing schedules, right now, what our estimates show us is about 40% of our existing articulated bus schedules can be operated with current battery electric bus technology, and about 75% of our standards. So overall, it's a sort of a blended average of about 60% of our schedules we can. That doesn't consider our over-the-road coach or expresses. We operate about 1,000 of those. So here are our 4 stages as we get from today to our 2040 goal. As you can see, we have 560 buses in this near-term capital program, 1,000, followed by close to 2,000 and 2,400. At the same time, while we'll be putting charging infrastructure, the amount of charging infrastructure we need and the amount of power supply, as you can see, grows exponentially. So between now and 2028, here's how we anticipate it lays out. Right now we have something in the order of 37 or so megawatts feeding our existing bus depots, we anticipate we would need 10 times that amount, or close to 400 megawatts. Again, we're hoping and we're confident that technology will change over time. There'll be a mix of both the maturing of the battery electric and also other technologies to use. And then lastly, just a little bit about our workforce. So we have 15,000 men and women that do, bus maintenance and operate our buses. Again, a key critical piece of this transformation, I can't stress enough, is around the organization and the change management with those people. And I'll get into that a little bit more as we move along. Again, today, the MTA, by virtue of the fact that we are public transit, we avoid approximately, I think it's 17 million metric tons from going into the New York City area. But by virtue of the zero emission fleet program, we then anticipate we would take out another 520,000 metric tons on top of that. So that's a real significant environmental impact that will have to the positive effect as we move along. So some of the challenges we see and opportunities. So again, like I said, New York City is a built-up urban environment. Poses challenges around not only bus storage, but around siting, opportunity charging in and around the city. We recognize that. Most notably, we have noticed some supply chains issues. That coupled with inflation that we're all experiencing here in America, we know that it is causing some near-term challenges that we hope will alleviate over time. Here in New York, we have a stringent qualifying program for bus manufacturers because of the intense duty cycle. So right now, we only do have one qualified electric bus manufacturer that we're working with. We anticipate having a second one as we move into the 2023. Workforce training and development programs must be developed, whether that be the emergency management planning, maintenance training, working around high voltage, facility training, and we'll get into some of that shortly. But that's a real key piece to this. Redundancy. What I could say is, right after Superstorm Sandy hit New York area, and much of the subway system was down, or parts of the subway system were down, we were able to bring back a sense of normalcy to New York City because we didn't rely on that same power grid that our subways did. So, we want to build in not only redundancy, but resiliency into our program. We're taking a look at some microgrids, the potential for microgrids in our bus depots, whether that be additional battery storage, whether that be repurposing compressed natural gas infrastructure, and then redundancy in regards to dual lines that feed one facility, redundancy in regards to what are the plans or the steps we can take in charging our buses at nearby facilities. It's all built in, not only on the infrastructure side, but the business process side and the people side. Additional bus and infrastructure funding. I mean, we definitely know that electric buses and the infrastructure required, are quite expensive. Recently, we were granted a low note grant for $100 million, which will help us in the current capital plan. We're very proud of that, and we'll continue to work with our stakeholders and the federal government on that. And then lastly, something that we've been discussing and that we've been trying to push with our legislatures and others are in regards to potential to monetize the carbon credits to help with all those funding challenges. So, this is the next two slides. I just want to sort of touch on a little bit more if we have the time, is that, when I came into the seat as the president of the MTA Bus Company back in 2019, the zero emission fleet program or what we're discussing is a key piece. And what I saw is it was residing in our chief maintenance officer, because that's typically where, buying buses resided. And what we quickly came to realize is that the depth and the breadth and the complexity of this program needed us to reorganize and to provide its own organization. So what we did is we took it out of there, the CMO's area, and we created a program management office. For sure, the buying of the buses and the maintenance training and stuff still resides with our CMO and his work streams around that. But in order to get, the bus facilities infrastructure done, in order to get all the power that needed to be provided through, discussions with Con Ed, discussions about, tariffs and rebates, the policy outreach, you could see some of the work streams here. We quickly realized we need to set up a program management structure. So what you see here is sort of an outline of our program management structure. The program management officer meets, day to day with each of the heads of these work streams. Plus, we have the steering committee that checks in on a quarterly basis to see where we are. And this is the way we reorganized, and has been successful thus far. So again, lastly, I just want to end by saying, this transformation, and I think the transformation that you see in most, I would say all public transit agencies, while we focus, and while the industry focuses on, rolling stock, infrastructure, power, and definitely that's all needed, really from an agency perspective, this is a big people process, and it's a big change management process, right? What I could say is, again, today we have diesel mechanics, tomorrow we need electrical maintainers and electricians. Right. Today, we have facility maintainers. Tomorrow, we might need electrical engineers. Right. Today, I know in subways, they have a power control center along with their rail control center. We have a bus command center, but tomorrow we might need to create a power control center to monitor power. It's about, training of people, bus operators, for instance, right? They're used to driving diesel buses. The acceleration and deceleration of electric buses provides a whole different thing. I know early on when we had our first hybrid electric buses, our customer accidents went up because the acceleration profile was too quick. People were not used to that. They weren't holding on. How about our pedestrians that are right now looking at their phones next to the diesel bus and relying on the sound of the diesel bus, right? We have to do. The point being is that, we're paying a lot of attention on not only the physical infrastructure, the engineering of this, but also on how we could bring our people along for the ride. And then lastly, as you see at the bottom, we want to empower people, right? We want to empower our road operations and, give them confidence in that electric bus that they're putting out, right? We want to empower our managers, our engineers that, we're going to move this goal and our mission so that it's as seamless to our customers. It's as seamless as it could be to our operations. And again, we're fully committed. So, with that said, I want to thank you. I hope I kept it to about the 15 minutes. I think I tried, but happy to take some questions, and really happy to share our experience and proud to be us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Cipriano. Yes, you stayed within 15 minutes. Thank you for that as well. If there are any questions from the floor, I would like the audience to maybe ask some questions. Would need them to come up here on the stage to be able to ask. Otherwise, I have a few questions that I was sort of putting some points together when Mr. Cipriano was speaking. Mr. Cipriano, so I found this point of empowering the workforce very, very interesting. And from what I understand is that your vision is it's a technological transformation, but it's also about sort of like workforce transformation. Can you share some specific initiatives that you've taken here? Can you expand a bit on this point? Because I see this point coming up at almost all our conferences, whether we talk about state of good repair, we talk about mobility as a service, we talk about zero-emission buses. So if you can just highlight talk a bit more about the initiatives.
Oh, sure. So, we recognized this early on when we brought on our first tranche of battery electric buses that, the workforce, there's anxiety around that, right? It's new technology. You have high voltage technology there, right? What do you do in regards to collisions, right? Have you engaged with your local fire department in regards to where you're operating battery electric buses, right? What are the precautions you need to have, right? I think most recently we saw some, quite frankly, a battery electric bus fire, right? That happened. Thank goodness that no one was hurt. But like I said, we're storing our battery electric buses within, vertical storage, well built up infrastructure. So the question is, how do you bring along people along the ride, right? How do you give them confidence that this is a safe technology? This is a technology that you could serve your customers with, that when you're dispatching the bus, right, that the bus is going to make it throughout the day, right? How do you how do you, train your maintainers to work around high voltage, to maintain, electrical components as opposed to mechanical components. What we've done thus far is we really work with our OEM on the bus side, right, to develop some training programs that we've rolled out. We also brought in some consultant help in regards to training programs for facility maintenance, the infrastructure around there, and then also in regards to some emergency planning procedures that we want to put in place. But again, the fact that we built up this program management organization, that sort of helps us with the change management, meaning that office does more than just the capital delivery of the project, but it's doing on a day-to-day basis also all the operating, making sure that the training gets done, and all the operating interfaces and communication with our operating managers so that we could, engage our employees throughout this journey.
Thank you. I have another question. And this was a question that I asked the keynote panelists yesterday as well in the morning. You interact with many transit agencies across the country. You interact with the industry. What do you see as the biggest challenges in the zero emissions bus space that multiple organizations around the country are facing?
Sure. So I think in the near term, and I think I had mentioned it, definitely we have some supply chain issues that are affecting both the infrastructure and the bus manufacturing side, as well as the inflation, the PPI that's affecting the procurements. So that's some near-term challenges. I think as we look ahead, I think it's going to be around maturation of the battery technology itself, and also of the reliability of the integration on the bus platform, that seamlessly we could put out a bus the same way we do today, in some cases for 20 hours a day, operate that bus, bring it back, either charge it or fill it up with the hydrogen fuel cell, and then have that bus ready for tomorrow. Here in New York specifically, we have some added challenges because, again, like I had mentioned, you're talking about 28 separate and distinct bus depots, embedded within, residential communities for the most part. So again, getting the power that we need, the competition for that power will be big, because if you look at New York City as an example, you have the 6,000 public transit buses, you have thousands of school buses, sanitation, trucks, passenger cars, all vying for the same power. And then when you take a look at the urban streetscape, it's not like you could have on a corner a bus, public transit bus charger, and then the sanitation chargers next to it, and the school bus, right? You want to share infrastructure charging. So, now's the time, it's ripe really to have those broader, policy and global discussions around, what does the streetscape will look like, and how we're going to provide this level of power in the future.
Thank you.